right, we are back with another podcast, and I've got someone I'm super excited about today, actually. Um, Known on YouTube by Bound by Gundams. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name's Jesse. Yeah, I go on YouTube as Bound by Gundams, also on Instagram as Bound by Gundams. Um, been building Gundams for about Gunpla for like I don't know, quite a while, like 6 years maybe. It's been a while. I don't know. I don't keep track anymore. Uh, I'm out of Detroit, Michigan, and yeah, I mean, I've been a little bit inactive for a bit. I mean, I'm just taking kind of a break as always. I'm kind of a hobby hopper, but yeah, kind of excited to talk here. Uh, yeah,
I'm super excited to have you because I've actually been getting back into it a little bit. I haven't bought any of the new kits, but I have like a billion already, and I've just been
yeah, I
like,
have no reason to buy anything new with the wall I currently have, and like my
exactly.
my backlog is small compared to some other people's, but
There's some people I see, like even in the groups I'm on Facebook, where it's just like, how do you? I understand some of these aren't super expensive, but how do you afford this amount of
yeah,
backlog,
it,
man? Like,
it's a I don't know. It's less of like how do you afford, but how do you justify it?
yeah, that too.
It's like I know a lot of these kits are relatively cheap, but I mean, you got to look over your shoulder and see that you like can't get out of your room because of the wall gunpla, and yet you're like, you know what? I'm gonna buy like two more. I don't get it.
When I first started, I definitely was like that, where I had way too many at one point. But I built all of them. Is the thing. Like they didn't just sit there for like 2 3 months. They were all built, like not like actually like panel line and stuff, but they were built within like a week or two. Is the
Yeah,
thing for me. I was addicted when I first started. I was like, oh my god, this is so much fun. It's like this was like
yeah. The same for me, except I don't know. I was like in the mindset that I shouldn't I should only have one kit in my backlog. Like I'm gonna build one and then I'll have one lined up, and once I start building that one, then I'll buy a new one. But everyone knows it doesn't. It does that does not last
no, it does not.
at all. No, no, no. Uh, so like I said, like my backlog, I feel to me it's out of hand, but you know, to others they're just like whatever. I've
Yeah,
got like 10,000, buddy. We
yeah. The thing for me was um my work is right by my hobby store,
oh
and
no, that's dangerous.
my hobby store, they have 3 employees specifically dedicated to getting Gundam in or Gunpla in, and they always have the new stuff coming in. Like they have connections over in Japan for like getting even some P Bandai kits that they pre-order and have come over here that they sell for a little bit more, just so that they can have them in the store. It's kind of crazy that they're able to do that. That seems like it wouldn't be okay, but apparently it is. Um, and it's just crazy
Yeah,
how they have all this stuff. They always I would go in there, and I'd be going in for like a thing of Tamaya paint, and they're like, "Oh, you see the new stuff we got in?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to look because I'm gonna buy something."
yeah. That's really lucky, especially with P Bandai stuff. I mean, like still even a lot of hobby stores don't even know what Gunpla is. They're just like maybe they heard of it, maybe they got like two of the older kits or something like that. But I know it's getting more popular. Like a lot of hobby stores are starting to carry more
Even
stuff, but it's always like out of date. Um, I have one store that has newer stuff always. No P Bandai stuff though. That's pretty awesome. I mean,
it
that's legit.
it's they're a great store. That I'll Hub Hobby. They're just awesome. I think they're Minnesota based mainly. There's two
Nice.
stores around here, and they they're they'll literally ask you if you want a kit ordered, and they'll order it for you and have it in within like 2 or 3 weeks. Like if they don't
Yeah.
have it, which is like crazy awesome, but also like back in the day that would have been amazing. But like if you don't want to go online and do it yourself, that's fine. But like you can just go online and do that yourself, obviously. Like if it's not in the store, like
Of course.
mm, I mean, it's really cool that they're willing to do that, but you know.
For me, it's the P Bandai stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's it was when I found that out because like when I started, I didn't know what any of that crap was. Like with
right.
P Bandai and all that stuff, I was just like, oh, Gunpla kits, awesome. And then started to figure out like how like much this like store kind of cared about it. Even the employees who don't really know about Gunpla like realize how important it is to their store. They have like a bunch of stuff up where like they have like a little glass case where they put customers builds in for
Oh,
like
nice,
Gunpla and like there's every once in a while some fun ones like Evangelion, Digimon, Zoids, stuff like that. But it's mostly Gunpla.
nice. Yeah, I
But
mean,
go
yeah,
ahead.
it's a, yeah, that it's just like I don't know what the prices are for that P Bandai stuff, but it's really hard to find stuff that's reasonably priced. Like I get it, it's exclusive and they got to get it from Japan. I know it's not like cheap, but I don't know. I don't want to pay like 150 bucks for a master grade that is typically 70 or something like that, right? Like, come on.
A lot of the P Bandai kits too, they'll get marked up like that, and they'll be they're all marked up around the same. And the ones that just disappoint me that they're marked up the same amount is the ones where like there's like two things changed on it. Like, oh, this one
Oh,
comes
yeah.
with like an extra gun and like it's a different color. It's like okay, but I paint my kits
Ain't
anyway.
about ain't about the colors and pieces, man. It's all about the exclusivity, baby.
Yeah,
Could be one piece.
yeah. Some of them are really really cool. Like shoot, I think it's the Zaku Warrior, that one that just came out where he's got like the B Max or whatever. I don't know what that is even from. I gotta watch more Gunpla or not Gunpla Gundam.
Well, Gundam Warriors from Gundam. Oh God, Seed. Yeah, I haven't watched Gundam in a while either, but um, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, there's definitely really cool P Bandai kits, and I still have a couple that I'd like to get around, but I only really buy them if they're like drastically changed. Um, Otherwise, I can try to make the pieces myself, to be honest, or try to turn it into the one I want, but I'm not too picky.
Yeah, I still have obviously, I because I wanted it really bad. I still have the F91 up. It's actually whenever I stream, it's right behind me. It's one of the only ones you can like readily see. It's sitting right behind me on my shelf. I love this thing. This is definitely my favorite thing on my shelf still. Uh,
Nice.
Definitely was for anyone who doesn't know, the F91 kit is the one that if you're looking at my stream on the right side of me, right over my shoulder, it was actually built by this guy. It's this was such a cool thing to get. It's the how it looks at the end of the movie, and it's perfect. It looks exactly how you did a fantastic job on this. Like
That's the
it's
master
awesome.
grade, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I literally did another one right after that one because they like some guy saw the one I did for you, and then he wanted the exact same thing but as the high grade. So like I have to completely forgot which one I did. But yeah, I built like two F91s in a row the exact same way. So
You did that on a high grade?
yeah, oh, the
That's
high grade is fucking tiny, dude. It's
dude.
it's insanely small. So
It's
it was hard, but
it.
I got it done.
I have the F91 high grade. It's minuscule and like it's a really nice kit like for a high grade. I gotta say, but it's so small. Like
Yeah,
there's
it's somewhere on my Instagram. Yeah, that I did the same thing on the high grade. Or maybe I didn't actually, you know what? Maybe I didn't post pictures for whatever reason. But yeah, the high grade technically isn't to scale. I don't know if you know. They had to actually make it a little bit bigger because if they did it to scale, it would have been like way too small.
really I did not know that.
The
But I
it's a bit bigger than it actually should be.
the F91 is a small Gundam, that is for sure. It's a fast boy though.
That's that's my favorite Gundam for sure. So I never mind working on the F91.
Surprisingly, when I first started watching you, when I heard you say that, I was like, "Oh, that's mine too." And then that's why that was like around the time where I was like, "Oh, I really would love it to have a kit where it looks like the end of the movie. And then I watched more of your videos. I think the first one I watched was where you did that little series where you were showing how to do weathering, panel lining, and there was a couple more things, but it was on that. It was on a red. I don't know what model it was, but it was on a red um, mobile
Oh,
suit.
the Schwalbe or whatever.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
cool
because
kit.
yeah, I had painted that one, and yeah, that was a little weird because what was the guy's name? Some guy out of Detroit here who tried to start sort of a Gundam. I think he wanted to eventually have a store, but at first he started like a little community, and then he wanted to get like I don't want to say influencers because I really hate that word, but it was like we'll use affiliates. He wanted to get Gunpla affiliates, but he asked me like, hey, could you like build this kit? I'll send you maybe paint it and do like a couple tutorials just so I can have some content. I'm like, yeah, sure. So that's where that came out of.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, but yeah, that's got. I think this. I personally think I did a pretty good job on that video. I put a lot of effort into it. Uh,
Those were what got me started on doing customization on my Gundams. Like I won't lie, that was the first thing I saw, and I stuck with that series, and that's where I learned how to do panel lining, weathering. I tried to weather on my own before watching any videos, and it was just way too much, like way too much. And then I watched that, and I
yeah,
was like, oh, that looks so much better than what I do. And from there on out,
yeah.
that's kind of what I did.
I think everyone can make their own technique. Like you don't have to follow someone else's guide, but there are definitely shortcuts and ways to do things like easier to make it easier on yourself. And yeah, I mean, I learned most of what I know actually from my wife.
Oh,
Because yeah, so she's a like she's an art major, and so back in like college when I like got well, she actually got her kit because she just wanted to try it, and I watched her build and I was like, damn, that looks fun. So like I went out and bought a kit and we built our first one together, and then she wanted to do weathering and all this stuff like right off the bat. And so I was like, I want to do the same thing. So she actually taught me everything for the most part.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah. And so and then out of that I kind of experimented around and looked up stuff. And of course I looked up stuff on YouTube. But everything I always found on YouTube was like either either the person like had trouble explaining what they wanted to do or the camera angles were really shit. It was like it was one of those two things. Uh, so that's why I wanted to make uh, videos that kind of compiled everything into one series or videos that was like really easy to understand and not complicated and no weird terms. So
Hmm.
yeah.
So for me, I kind of agree with you on that, but then it's either their camera quality is shit, their angles are shit, or they're doing things that are so far out of my range of ability, like people like Zaku Aurelius. He's just people
Yeah,
like
yeah.
him, and then there's these people who just do this crazy stuff with these Gundams, and it's just like I'm just getting started. I can't do that.
Yeah, and that was my big exactly. I had the same issue. And if I didn't have my wife to actually like hold my hand through the whole whole entire first process, I think I'd be in the same boat where I was like, I can't do that. I don't know what that is. What are you talking about? So that's why I had like my beginner. I never found a good beginner video on YouTube, and that's why I wanted to make a couple of those for people who like really they don't even know how to spell panel lining or
Hmm.
like that simple. So that was my goal with those videos.
Yeah, those are great videos for a lot of reasons. I'm gonna be real with you. I started off with just building, and I was like, oh, I love this, but I want to do more. And I don't think if I think if I hadn't found those simple tutorials, I wouldn't have kept going with my stuff because I would have been just like, oh, this is too hard, or this is too this, or whatever. I would have
It
kind
can
of
be
like
frustrating. Yeah.
just kept building and then not actually done extra work on my stuff. And some of mine, I've kind of stuck away from master grades for the most part for me because the last one I tried on, I really messed it up, and it was just like I loved this kit and I wanted to do something cool with it, and I just messed it up. But with high grades, I've been doing some really cool stuff. Like I did a really cool kit bash where the GM.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was a really cool one.
I took the riser from Double O, and I took its dual GN engines, and I put them on the GM's backpack, and then I also
Nice.
took its arms and legs from the riser and put them on the GM, and I call it the GMGN,
That's nice. That's clever.
and it
Yeah,
came out really cool.
for whatever reason, I'm just not into kit bashing at all. I don't like it. I have like no interest in it for whatever reason.
The only ones I really kit bash on are like those, like build divers or like build fighters stuff because
Yeah, because they make it easy.
exactly.
Yeah.
With older kits, I won't do it. Like, I'll take pieces from them and put them on the build divers, build fighters stuff. But with the older kits, like I usually buy them because I want to work on that specific model, that mobile suit, not
Hmm.
because I want to put this one in this one or whatever. And I've just found it to be a lot of fun to just take a kit that's really not that great, like the old GM kits are what I've been kind of doing that with lately, and just turn it into something cool
Those are
by
really
like
good ones.
with a lot of
Yeah.
work though, because the older GM high grades they're clunky. They're
You're
not
talking about like
bad
the
kits,
old ones?
like the space type and like the
Oh,
ground
geez.
type, ice type,
Yeah.
like those guys. So I actually worked on the I think it was the ice type or whatever. Or the what are they? I don't remember what they call it. It's a ground type, but it's something like they give it like cold weather type or something.
Probably that. There's so many
But
eh, blank 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 type
yeah,
GMs. So
GMs are awesome. I GMs and mono eyes were really lame to me at first, and then I started actually building them, especially the master grades, and just falling in love with them because they aren't super like surface detail kits, but the movability and like all the stuff that comes with them is just amazing.
yeah, I'm like I was the opposite. Sort of like I still love like grunts, like Mono Eyes, GMs, all that stuff. Um, for me, they're like the perfect mix of like that kind of Western mech
Hmm.
aesthetic and like the Japanese kind of stylized stuff. Like that's what the Zaku is for me. It's that clunky Western militarization with that kind of stylization of the East. Uh, but then I started, and I wasn't really into like Gundams. And then I started to build some of the Gundams. And I was like, damn, these are actually really cool. And I kind of need to let my inner 14-year-old embrace it. So,
Yeah, no, I Gundam. Yeah, I agree as well. I love the Gundams, and I my love for them hasn't gone down since I started loving the Zaku's and like GMs, but I definitely have started to appreciate the simpler kits more, just because it it takes it takes a different take on like the build, and then like, once you have it there, you've
yeah,
got the whole thing there, and then they usually add some really cool like gimmicks, like especially with the Zaku's, the fact that they have the little wires on the inside of the side.
the tubes, yeah.
Yeah, and like they're actually like movable and they bounce around. That was when I first built one. I was like, oh my god, that's so smart and so cool. Like that's so fun to like that isn't just like a stationary piece.
I don't know about fun. Like having to
Oh,
sand
putting
each
them
and
together
every
it
one of those
sucks.
stupid things. Yeah.
Putting them together, but once it's there, like that's really cool.
Oh, for sure. I just turned the nubs towards the kit. But man, like sanding those tiny. I mean, I have you built any real grades at all?
Yes, I don't like real grades.
Neither do I, but building the real grade Zaku was a nightmare. I
I
mean,
oh my god, I
oh my God. Because it uses the same method. They make it like slightly easier, but you're still cleaning up those nubs. And it's nubs on a real grade. Yeah, yeah, it was
yeah,
awful.
no, thank you. I went on a huge kick of high grade Zaku's for a bit there. I built like six of them, like every different kind, even the ones that are like basically the same
The
kit,
new
just a
ones
different
are so
color.
good. The
Exactly.
new Origin ones, they're
They're
so good.
yeah, they're
It's
so
ridiculous.
cool.
I want a master grade of those. Like I
Yes.
don't just make it bigger. That's all. That's all I need from it. Yeah, it's man, it's crazy. Like being into Gunpla for a while, like even over 6 years. I know like people have been in it for a lot longer, but just how quickly the the especially in high grades, master grades, they've changed a little bit. I would say like internally, like surface detail of course got better, but high grades like some of them have like almost full internal frames, which is kind of insane to me. For $10 or whatever they sell these things for,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I mean it's just a man, it's a really great time to get into Gunpla.
The IBOs were the ones that surprised me the most when I first started building. While
Yeah.
the Gundams themselves are, you have to tighten up the joints. Absolutely,
Oh, for sure.
they're flimsy. But the fact that they have an inner frame and they have like they basically, I think they came up with a set frame for each Gundam for that one, and it was just
Yeah, for the most part.
it was so impressive to me. And there's so many kits from that that are just, they came out with ones where I never thought they'd come out with, especially so quickly. Like the
It
high,
was so popular. I'm not too surprised. I was like, damn, either they're gonna come out. This is gonna be like Star Wars, where you're gonna get like, you know, um, the kit for every single little random thing in the show. Um,
the dude with the big sword was probably my favorite non Gundam kit. What is that? What is
oh,
the name of him?
the Heinwig or Hinwig or
Yeah,
that kind of looks like a bull, right?
exactly. It's just such a unique mobile suit in general for like its look, and I loved it and I bought it and I did a bunch of work on it, and then I was like, wait a minute, I have another one. I'm gonna use the pieces I like goofed with on this one and put it on something else, and then I just rebuilt the other one and panel lined them and just made them look cool, and I have them up on my shelf too. I just
That
love the unique
that
kits
thing
that they
was
came up
it was such an embarrassment in the show.
with. It didn't
Uh,
do anything.
it literally showed up and fell over. Like
Mika,
that,
oof,
yeah.
embarrassed that boy.
Uh, that was my big complaint with season two of IBO was it was clearly, I mean, all of Gundam is to sell Gunpla, let's be real. But that one was like even more so. Like so many new uh mobile suits showed up just so they could have something on screen so they could sell it in the store.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, oh my god, I'm watching like a 24 episode advertisement at this point, and there's like no story.
Hello, this is Thanos, coming here to tell you that they are about to spoil Iron-Blooded Orphans. So if you don't want that to be spoiled, I suggest skipping ahead of it and just... This is so fucking stupid. Why did I do this? Oh my god.
The spoilers. The story of that show was let's kill everyone that can get a reaction.
Yeah, I mean,
Jeez.
yeah, it was like episode Star Wars episode 8 and like fucking Gundam form. They were just like go or like season 1 where they were just trying to get to Mars or Earth, excuse me. And it was just like a long chase for the most part. I don't know. I liked season 1, but IBO in general I wasn't too wild about. I love the designs though. Like the kits and everything, fantastic, but the show, whatever.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. But I don't know. The That was one of my first shows that I fully watched. My actual first one was, of
For a lot of
course,
people.
was
Yeah.
Double O.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. I mean, I got into the shows when I was like young, like with Gundam Wing, like everyone else,
Oh yeah, of
for the
course.
West because it was the first one. But I didn't really get into Gundam until G Gundam. I don't know. I was really into Dragon Ball Z and everything like that as a kid, so G Gundam just kind of worked for me. Uh, but I
Dragon Ball
never
Z
got
was cool.
A later. What was that?
Oh, I said Dragon Ball Z was cool, as well as the fact that you could kind of see that G Gundam inspired it. I'm saying
Oh,
Dragon Ball Z was cool while I've talked about it several times. I'm just this guy who doesn't know much about it, but whatever. I I also really like G Gundam. I'm gonna have to agree with you there. I wish they had more kits from it.
yeah, it's not very popular in Japan.
That
Um,
would explain why we don't have more kits from it.
and it's pretty racist. So,
Oh, is it?
yeah, yeah. Have you watched it? Have you ever watched?
I watched it when I was younger. I haven't, and a lot of that
No,
stuff
it's
would go over my head.
yeah, it's not like yeah, it's not like over like it's not racist in the sense like they're over here like throwing out slurs or anything like that.
Well,
you know,
I'd hope
but
not.
of course not. But some of the Gundam designs are just like I don't know if that would fly. I mean, you look at like Neo Mexico's Gundam, and it's like this giant Gundam with a sombrero and a
Oh
cactus
my
for an arm and a
goodness.
poncho.
I just
Yeah,
realized that.
yeah, and it's like I'm originally from El Paso, Texas, and I know people there. They love Neo Mexico's Gundam, but you're gonna have the people who hate it. But
Yeah.
then like, what's the? I think it's like Neo Ethiopia's Gundam or whatever. It's like a zebra skin Gundam with a spear, and you're like, oh god, I.
Yeah, that's a bit cringe.
That's pushing it. Yeah, there's stuff like that in that show. I think Neo Grease's is like it looks like Zeus, which is like I think that's kind of hilarious. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, so it,
I
but
I guess that stuff just went over my head as a kid.
yeah, it's same with me. I was just like, that's the country. Like, what else could it be?
Yeah. Kids are innocent. They don't think about that stuff.
Exactly. But they should at least everyone agrees that they should at least come out with the Shuffle Alliance, like the main
Yeah.
four or five, excuse me, Gundams. But then they'd have to deal with Neo Francis that looks like Napoleon. So I don't know.
I wish they would at least come out with um another Devil Gundam. Redo that.
Yeah, I think I don't even know if an HG technically exists.
No, it's the old grade.
It's some yeah, it's like some non-grade that exists.
My
Yeah, they
store
really
actually still sells those. That every once in a while they'll get kits of those in the old ones.
yeah
Those
yeah
are
same with mine. It's just some like overstock that some random warehouse probably has, and they'll just buy them, not knowing that like nobody's probably gonna buy them, but who knows?
people at our store actually buy them just to like goof around with them and do funny stuff with them, like see what they can do with it.
Yeah, and some of those kits like come with parts that you kind of need to make like a certain variant of a
Yeah,
GM or a Zaku or something. For whatever reason, they only grade that got it are these like whack 90s no grade kits.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's hope. They came out randomly with a Dark Army, right? Or what's Dark Army, right?
Um, I mean, I am sitting right on a computer, so we can honestly just look it up.
Is it Death Army? I'm trying to remember because like in the West, we called everything something different in the show.
Is it this guy?
Maybe
There we go.
Brown. Death Army? Death Army, right?
Ooh, there we go. I'll cut this little lead up out. Yeah, Death Army. There we go. This little
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, Death Army. Yeah. So they came out with yeah, it's weird. That it's hard to like get it your mind wrapped around it, but that right there is called a Death Army. A Death Army. Not the whole army. The whole army is an army of death armies. Just
I'll
deal with
throw
it.
it up on screen for everyone in the podcast. But yeah, no, that's a bit confusing. I don't know why you would call a single, unless it
Yeah,
it
a
would make
single
sense if
unit
it
is
was like
called
a
a Death
one
Army.
unit army. But
No, there's a lot of them. But yeah, Death Army. So they came out with that recently, which was really random. I mean, out of all things to make out of G Gundam, the one Gundam series where the main focus is like almost solely on the Gundams, you come out with the Grunt that maybe appears in maybe like 5 episodes. whatever. Like, okay. So they came out with the Death Army HG, and it's like a pretty good HG. That's the last thing I started building. Um,
I think I saw that on your Instagram actually.
the seams are really annoying on it. So like
And
I started to get rid of them. I was like, I'll do this tomorrow, and it didn't happen.
it is a
Um,
high grade, so that's to be expected, honestly.
yeah,
I
but
wish they were better with that, but I mean, they can't.
kind of a
They
lot better, man. Like
oh yeah,
it, I mean, the origin kits like nearly have no um seams, and I'm just like, these kids have it way too easy nowadays, man.
yeah.
uh, but yeah, but considering that they came out with this, I mean, maybe they'll come out with another G Gundam kit. I mean, I want something else from G Gundam, but
They only have the Shining, um, G Gundam, and then the Epion and the Master, right? Those are really the only
and the
ones.
Nobel, the Sailor Moon one.
Oh, I
That
forgot
one's like
about
really
that.
rare because I mean, for one, it's super unique, and it's the only kit you can get of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one. I just haven't built it.
That's kind of that's the curse of this hobby. You have all this stuff, but then like half the time you're like, oh, I haven't built that one yet. I
Well,
have it.
yeah, I had plans for that one, and I was gonna get a God Gundam, Burning Gundam. I think Burning Gundam's a better name.
Yeah.
The westernized version. God Gundam seems a little awkward to me, but whatever. Um, yeah, like me and my wife were gonna put those together as like cake toppers for our wedding.
Oh,
But
nice.
then yeah, and we were gonna paint them like each other, which was gonna be kind of funny. But of course, like COVID hit and everything, because we got married in 2020,
Mm.
like in February. So
Congratulations.
thank you. So
I'm in
yeah,
a
that
different
happened. So our
sect.
wedding was like tiny, and there was no cake. So
I'm in a different sect when it comes to my backlog. It's usually because I get really busy as a whole, and
mhm.
then I've bought these kits and I just haven't built them. Like that space type GM that I built.
Yeah,
That I'm deciding if I want to release the video or not. It's just me building it and I'm gonna commentate over it. But it's one of those things where it's like I can't tell if the camera angle is like crap or not because I have kind of I have a nice camera, but I have kind of a shitty tripod, and I don't have a green screen or anything, so the angle had to be from the side. So
oh yeah.
I might just do a different kit for my first like build on the channel because I don't think I want to release that one. But I had that space type sitting for like 3 4 months, and then finally I was just like, okay, I'm gonna build this. I have to build it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've made like two build videos, I think, and I wasn't like too crazy. I don't know. I don't like build videos. At least making them. I don't like making build videos because like I like to build. I build really slow. Um, Typically I'll take like 3 days on an HG, where most people might knock it out in like a day. That's just
Mm-hmm.
me. It's not that the instructions are hard. It's just
No.
I just sit there and relax. That's all. Uh, so when I'm filming, I'm just like, I don't want to edit over like 3 hours of film. Um,
Yeah.
so I try to rush it, and then it's just no fun. So
For me, I started off where it's like, oh, how fast can I get this done? Like, yeah, I would buy a high grade and I'd see how fast I can get it done, and then I slowly moved away from that because it's like, oh, it doesn't matter how fast you build it. Like no one cares how fast you built your kit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't get that. People are like, I built my master grade in a day, and it's like, okay,
Yeah, exactly.
why?
Like, and what did that accomplish you?
I mean, if you built it in a day and you like did all this work to it and it like looks incredible, then I'll be like, damn, like that's impressive. But if you
Yeah,
just snapped it, I'm just like, okay.
yeah, exactly. If you just snap built it in a day, it's like, and I mean, I could do
Yeah,
that too. It's just
yeah. It's less of like I can do that too. It's more like, are you happy? I don't know. Like,
yeah,
okay. I don't, all right. It's weird. I don't really understand the the point of bragging about that you built something quick or took a long time either.
Yeah,
Unless the result. It's always about the result for me. Like
exactly. I totally
so.
agree with that. So actually, I'd love to hear about stepping away from Gunpla for a moment. You're in a band. I'd love to hear about how that is.
Sure. Yeah. So I play bass guitar in a band called Turnt, Turnt, out of Detroit. Yeah. Uh, and we recently being I think December. I don't remember if it was in December, November. We released our first EP. It's 5 songs. You can find it on Apple Music, Spotify. I think it's like on every streaming
You should
place. It's,
send me a link. I'll put it in the description for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. Let me see if I can find it. Apple Music. Um, and yeah, right now we've kind of taken somewhat of a break, just like everyone in a band, I think, because of the COVID.
It's hard
Uh,
to get together if you're in a band with this going on.
or like it's hard to put on shows when you can't.
Yeah, that too. That oh my goodness, I didn't
um,
even think of that. I write music,
yeah,
but I definitely don't do shows.
yeah, and we were doing shows nearly like every week, um,
That's
because
so cool. That's got to be so much fun.
it was a ton of fun, um, and so uh, yeah, so we're kind of on a break right now. We're trying to see where we're gonna go, if we're gonna do more studio stuff or what. Uh, but yeah, getting this album out was kind of a pain in the ass. I had never like actually like I've been doing music forever, like way longer than Gunpla for sure. Uh, but this is the first time I ever tried to like record and release an album with other people. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that goes into it. So it was kind of a pain in the ass. So we were all kind of fed up with it
That
for a bit, but
that
yeah.
seems to be usually what happens after an album releases for a band. It always seems like so much work from the outside, but I'm if it seems like that from the outside, it's got to be just hell from the inside.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, we got it out eventually, and then yeah, we're still trying to work out, what are we gonna do next in terms of like how do we get our music out and stuff like that. Um, but anyways, yeah, it's like a mix of we've gotten comparisons to Nirvana
Ooh,
a lot of like '90s. We take a lot of inspiration from like '90s grunge and tried to incorporate some newer sounds from like we've been compared to Muse, which I don't really see, but whatever. Um,
I mean that's not a bad thing to be compared
no, no,
to.
it's not a bad thing at all. I don't see it. But yeah, it's a three piece. It's me on bass guitar, Jordan on guitar and vocals, and then Brandon on drums.
Nice.
It's a pretty simple setup. Um, but yeah, I mean that's kind of it.
That's that I find that awesome because I've been I started playing trumpet. I sucked at it and I never did it again. But then I moved to choir and I've been doing choir for well not anymore obviously because I'm not in like school or anything. But I've been singing and doing stuff like that since I was in like 7th grade. I, I
Yeah,
I love it and I've been trying to really buckle down on myself. I've been working on some music and I've been buckling down on myself to get it done and hearing like other people talk about how they do it and like they kind of were just like, well let's make this EP, let's do it. It and like it's just so cool to hear about, especially from someone eh, I don't know how to fully just someone where like hobbies are in common and then they're also just someone I definitely looked up to in that hobby just to hear that
thank you.
they did that and then they're proud of it. I'm glad that it like came out good and that you like it. Like that's awesome. It's just so cool to hear that. And I don't know exactly where I was going with this. I just think I wanted to convey that like I think it's really cool that you did this.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I've been doing music since like fourth grade as well. Like also very young. I played the saxophone in band. What's kind of funny since you mentioned the trumpet is when so at my school when you got into fourth grade you had to pick like a fine art to do. So it was like you could either go do like art, choir, or band, and everybody wanted to do art because like it's basically like finger painting, right? Like you don't actually have to yeah, like really you don't have to do anything in like fourth grade art. Whereas in choir you had to learn how to sing, and band you had to learn how to do an instrument or play an instrument. So I tried to get into art and it was full. So I went to band next because I didn't really want to sing. Uh, and I wanted to do trumpet because all of my friends were doing trumpet, and for whatever reason, my mom hated the trumpet. She thought it was like a really annoying instrument. So she just wouldn't let me do the trumpet. I was like, why? Why can't I play the trumpet? And she's like, it's an ugly instrument. I was like, okay. So
I
she made me do the saxophone. But
my,
I loved it. I ended up loving it, but it was just weird.
I have a similar experience with so at my school, once you got into 5th grade, you had to pick we didn't have art as an option. It was either you do choir or band, and back in that time, like eh, singing was just like cringy for some reason.
Yeah, that was uh,
And I hate that it was like that because I love singing now so much. But my dad already had a trumpet, and he was like, "Okay, you're gonna play trumpet." And I was like, "But I I wanted to play saxophone." So like literally the exact opposite thing because like I always hear these jazz I always heard these jazz like songs where the saxophones just go crazy and stuff, and I was like, I want to do that. And my dad was like, I played trumpet, we have 3 of them, you're gonna play trumpet.
yeah, no. That's funny. Yeah, I mean for me it was mostly like I wanted to just be with my friends because the trumpet section was all the way on the other side of the saxophone or
Oh
like the brass and the
yeah.
woodwinds. So like I couldn't like fuck around with my friends, you know. I had
It,
to like be in the lame woodwind section with the clarinet tryhards. But like but no, I ended up really liking it. And then it was high school that I started to get into like of course like the more like rock instruments.
mm-hmm.
And my best friend, he started to learn. He was also a saxophonist. Like, I think he joined to do. He was in choir at first, but then he realized I chose band. I don't know how he realized so late, but he did. You think he would know on the first day, but whatever. Um, so he joined band and picked saxophones just so we could be in the same section. Um, but when he got to high school, he wanted to learn guitar to pick up chicks. Uh, I mean, really, and and like he got pretty good at it. And then I thought to myself, like, I want to pick up chicks. So I asked him, like, hey, can you teach me guitar? And he was like, sure. And I was like really bad at it. And he was like, maybe you should try the bass. Because he's like, it's like guitar, but easier. And, you know,
That's rude to basis.
I mean, yeah. And now it is, but at the time I was like, I don't care. Like I want to look cool. But that's
Yeah.
that's how I got into it. Um, but so
Yeah.
like I can kind of play guitar. I'm not great. I can do chords, right? But I'm not like virtuoso at it. But like yeah, I've been playing bass since then.
Huh.
Um, and it's not easier than guitar.
I I know that.
For all the listeners, all right, it's don't let your horny friend fool you. All right.
I
But
had a very different experience in band. I didn't have someone join up. I met a buddy there, and it basically just turned. I met him in the trumpet section, and we were the 2 spots above last place, like last chair, and
oh yeah.
because I cared in middle school, not in middle school, in elementary school about like playing the trumpet and doing well, but the moment I got into middle school, it was just like they forced you to like play a certain amount every day, and it turned into this chore where it was something I didn't really want to do. So when I'd be in class, I was such an awful student in band. I feel bad for my teachers, but me and my buddy would just screw around the entire time. We'd draw like anime pictures and crap and just not pay attention, and it was very obvious why we were the two spots above last year.
Our last chair literally didn't play. Like I remember him too. His name was Jordan, and he would sit there, and I would watch. Like he would have the saxophone like in his mouth, but he wouldn't be blowing, and he wouldn't actually be like, what's it called on saxophone when you make notes? It's not fretting. That's for guitar. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
pushing down the. He wouldn't do that. I looked over once. I was like when I was resting because I was like second chair or something like that. I look over and he's not playing. I was like, no. I was like, he's no wonder he's last chair. He literally doesn't play.
Yeah.
It was so funny. Um, and one time like a song ended, and I guess he was like an autopilot, and he was just sitting there like still fake playing. And
Oh
our
my
conductor was
God.
like, Jordan, the song is over,
Oh my
and he was
God.
like, oh,
Well,
oh man,
our last chair didn't even play trumpet. He played
what?
cornet.
Oh,
And he was a cool dude. His name was Owen, really nice guy, but he wasn't he. There was a big gap in between him, like last chair, and us, like the second above the two above that, because Owen just wouldn't pay attention at all. Like me and my buddy would screw around all the time, but we'd know what's going on the music and stuff. Owen
yeah.
would just be in another world over in wherever, and
This is a
so
jazz musician.
so sometimes he'd just be sitting there, not even trumpet in his mouth, when we were in the middle of of a song, like playing.
Jordan was the same way. It's like he was clearly his part was playing, but he wasn't. Uh, yeah, I like for those who don't know what chairs are, it's like it's not necessarily a measurement of how good you are. It's kind of how much effort you're putting into band.
Yeah,
That's how I
definitely,
saw it. Uh,
definitely at that age at least.
so if you're first chair, you're usually playing like the lead of your part, and if you're last chair, you're kind of playing the background of that part,
Hmm.
or nothing. There's some songs where there's only one part, so you get to sit out. Uh, but
We
yeah,
never
it's
had
definitely
that. They never did that to the lower chairs.
they did that to us.
We would play less. There would never be a song where we didn't play at all though. That's
Yeah,
that I
I don't
feel
know.
like that would be super demoralizing for a middle schooler. Like if they already didn't like band, that would be like just like that. Yep, I'm done with band.
Yeah, our conductor kind of followed the sheet music to a T at point. So sometimes we get sheet music where it's like, one part first chair, uh, was it like three parts for preceding chairs, and then there are no more parts, and we had like five people, so like the last two would just sit out, or the last one
Oh,
would just kind of sit out. I mean, Jordan definitely didn't care, so
fair enough.
maybe it worked out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I the band was not for me, and I wish I had put more effort into it because I'd love to be able to say I can play an instrument. Like I pick up a trumpet now and I'm like, what is anything? Like,
Singing is an instrument. It's difficult to sing. At least I think it is. But
yeah, okay, fair, but I feel like at well, you can learn to play an instrument at any point, but
yeah.
I feel when you're younger, it's easier to learn to play an instrument,
Oh,
especially
most definitely.
especially
Yes.
considering I had that I had that tool where I had to practice for a certain amount every day. Like because I was in that class, so I had mandatory like well I guess not. It's not like they were sitting there with a gun at my head, but I had
Hmm.
basically mandatory playtime where I could learn it, and I felt like I squandered that. But then I got into choir, and I I really put effort forward in that. I feel like so
Sure.
it worked
That
out, but
Yeah, that initial hump of learning an instrument is always hard to overcome. Where it's like, how do I explain it? It's like when you get to the point where you can kind of play on your own. like just kind of fiddling around and making it sound halfway decent is kind of at the point where it starts to become really fun, and then you just want to do it on you just want to play on your own, like to practice. But everything before that is kind of a chore. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a. I feel like that's unique to music in
yeah,
general. A lot of hobbies that I music isn't always a hobby though. To be fair, sometimes music
yes,
is a full-on career. But other hobbies, like if you're doing music as a hobby, other hobbies, like especially things like gunpla, like it's fun from the beginning. You're building something and it's cool and it's a little robot. Uh, Card game like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh. You're playing the game with your friends or at a tournament or something right away. It's fun, even if you're not doing well. It's fun. Uh, Art, even. I mean, yeah, you may not be good at it, but you're drawing, and as long as you're not like super critiquing yourself, you're having fun. You're just drawing what you want to draw. With music, it feels if you're not doing well, it's
yeah. It feels awful. Yeah,
right.
it
Like even if
real.
no
Like
one's
it.
around, even if no one's
Yeah,
around,
okay.
it just
It's less of a
hurts.
hump and more like a mountain at times. Like for sure, uh, learning bass guitar was a nightmare because I mean the stringed instruments are generally harder to learn, but everyone wants to learn them because they're cool, right? But God, it sucks. It sucks so bad
Yeah,
in the beginning. Um, but you
just
just got to remember that like the more you do it, the better you're gonna get. Like no matter what. Um,
that's with anything really.
yeah, with anything, but it does seem it at first it does seem almost impossible with a lot of like with instruments. Um,
Yeah.
or you could be like Jordan. I mean, he was
It's
good
just
from the get go, right?
he just had it down, man.
Yeah, I mean, he got away with it. So
It's it while it I I personally feel like all my hobbies are rewarding like when I'm doing well at them. But I feel like when I especially with what I've been doing lately with this EP, I feel like when you really get a song or a certain part of a song down, like it feels so rewarding compared to other things because it's there. You can physically hear it and
yeah,
like it's not it's not like with a gunpla where once it's done, then like once it's fully done, then it looks really good. With music, you record it as long as you've recorded it well, you can hear that it sounds good, and it just feels so rewarding and good. Uh,
yeah. I think another part of it is also that you can play it again, right? Like it's if you've written something or you're in a song or something and it's really rewarding to play and to listen to. I mean, you'll almost never get bored of playing it. Uh,
mm-hmm.
of course, like if you end up like Nirvana or Led Zeppelin, you're never going to want to play "Smells Like Teen Spirit" or "Stairway to Heaven" ever again. But like it's still I don't know. It's kind of like when I play and I'm just playing on my own, maybe I'll play one of these songs that we wrote. It's still like it kind of gives me that feeling that I have from either recording it or playing on stage or
Mm.
whatever. I kind like it's that same feeling. Yeah, music's really unique in that sense.
It's I like that point a lot, where you can play it again because with a lot of hobbies, if you get something down, it's kind of like you move on to the next thing, and
Yep.
because you move on to the next tier of whatever the hobby is, or you do whatever. And with music, like you said, I love that point because you can just go back and play it again, or even just listen to it again. It's like you can go back and look at your art or your model or whatever, but you can draw it again, but there's no
Yeah.
guarantee that it'll be better. There's no guarantee that it'll even be the same because
Exactly. Like yeah, you can build the model again, but to have that experience of building it again for the first time, yeah, you're not playing the same song for the first time. But trust me, with music, it's better
it is. It is. No, it
than the
absolutely
first
is.
time.
Because with music, especially with music, this is just something that that makes me find music so unique as just an art form and a hobby and everything. It, you can do it again, and do it even better for free.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you want to do art again and you want to make your art again, that's a first of all, art's a huge, like if you're drawing or painting, that's a huge time commitment.
Hmm.
If you're building a gunpla, especially if it's a higher grade, if you want to build that again, that's a huge. You can take it apart, but I mean,
Yeah, I guess the point is it's not a 2 minute song, right?
yeah, exactly. It's not like just playing through a 2 minute song and getting that feeling of like, yeah, I did that. That's my thing.
Exactly.
It Music is amazing. I love music so much. I've
And especially with the EP, I mean, you're going through this whole thing. It's like when you start to do things with recorded music rather than live music, you can really start to because like you can go overboard. Don't get me wrong. Like Fall Out Boy is definitely a band, but but there's these embellishes that like you you would probably need like a quintet or something to accomplish on stage. When you're a three-man group, it's just like you're not gonna you don't have the time for that, and it's not a permanent part of your
Mhm.
composition. But when you're doing an EP, like for example on this EP that we put out, Willis the Dolphin is an instrumental, and we have a few instruments in there that we don't play on stage, and it that song on the EP is such a different feeling and vibe than it is live, and I like it better recorded than live. Um,
It can
so
go
yeah,
both ways with that though. I
yeah, definitely.
I now I'm gonna admit something slightly embarrassing, but my first concert ever was Panic at the Disco, and it was a free concert at my college back when I went to college, and
Shoot me, I think Panic at the Disco is better than Fall Out Boy, but
I do too. I do too. To be fair, but I went to this concert and it was like, I don't really care about Panic at the Disco. And I went into it and I'd listened to a bunch of their music beforehand. Like everybody knows I Write Sins, Not Tragedies. Like everybody's heard that song. But
yeah.
then just live, I don't know what it was, but I do know what it was. It was the lead singer, Brandon Urie. He's just if you're good at performing live, you can just completely change up what you normally do and people just go with it. They're just like, "Yep, okay, this is how this goes right now." And it's crazy how he was doing this. He would they'd go to a song where he normally doesn't play a certain instrument, and because it was a smaller show, they didn't have the people that they were normally going to have there to play that instrument. Like he played the saxophone, he played the piano, all this different stuff, and he would just play the saxophone or whatever for certain parts or the piano or whatever, and it was just like crazy. He was doing flips and whatever on stage, and it was like whoa. I didn't realize concerts this was what concerts were because I
I mean,
never really had time for them in high school.
yeah.
I did choir, three sports, and it was just like I never had time for stuff outside of school really.
No, I totally agree. Like it can go both ways, like you said. Like the live performance of a lot of songs and music can just be completely superior, even to
Hmm.
record the recorded song. For example, like I prefer every song recorded on live at the Paramount for Nirvana,
Hmm.
that concert. Every single one of those songs I prefer over the recorded
Hmm.
versions because there's this different sort of vibe and energy behind everything. Like uh, Chris's bass playing and Kurt's voice in that live concert. There's just this weird energy that is just not present on the recorded uh,
Yeah.
versions. But I've definitely been to concerts where I was like, dude, this can't be the real band. There's
Yeah.
no way. There's
That's
no way they're bad.
I have done that
So
as well. Back in when I was in college, I went to a couple concerts on. Well, I wasn't in college anymore. I had taken my break year, and I was hanging out with my buddy at the U of M, and I went to a couple concerts with him, and it was just like it would go from there was one where it was like a couple bands in a row, and it would go from like, oh, these guys are really good to like, what, like, are these guys really one of the bands you have on? Because
Right.
it's not to be mean, but and then I'd go listen to their album, and it's like, oh, this is what they're supposed to sound. They sound good.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's straight stage fright. I don't think it is. Like they can obviously play. Like I don't doubt their
Mm-hmm.
performances because they played it, they've recorded it, right? Like yeah, you get more chances, you get more takes, but the point is they can play.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I just sometimes I think for certain bands it's they have or any performance actually any musician they have this they have a lack of like stage presence or stage performance as
Yeah.
compared to like when they're in the studio. Like I don't doubt their talent or anything like that, but yeah, like sometimes it just doesn't work on stage, you know?
Being a performer, like playing live music, is a talent in itself, I think.
Yeah, I think
Like being able
someone
to do
I
that.
think I read in a book by oh shit, what's his name? Victor what's his name? The bassist. Victor Wooten. I almost called him Wooden. Victor Wooten. Um yeah, he's a really great bassist. He wrote this book that was like spiritual finding and let me find it. I want to get it right because it's probably like my favorite. Um, yeah, so it's called The Music Lesson: A Spiritual Search for Growth Through Music. You know, you can ignore the spiritual stuff, but the actual like insight on what kind of makes a good musician in this book is really really good. Um, and one of the things he said I remember was like there's a difference between a performer and a musician, and if you want to play on stage you got to be a better performer than you are a musician at times, and etc. You have to find a good balance. You can't just be all one side and you can't just be all the other side.
Yeah, no,
It's
absolutely.
just like yeah, like after playing on stage I'm like yeah, I totally agree. Because you'd be surprised how many notes you can miss when you're on stage as long as you jump around enough.
So, I actually have a buddy who I went to high school with who is rather he's actually kind of blown up a bit in the last couple of years. He's a rapper. His name's Dwinell Roland. Really cool dude. So down to earth, despite the fact that he's worked with crazy ass people. Like, Prof, the
Yeah.
really goofy rapper. He's worked with him. He's worked with POS, and he toured with POS. Like, he toured across the U.S. with POS, but he would still like find time to sit down and like talk and hang out with me. And it was like, God, you're cool. But he he's just such a fantastic performer in general. He'll he Have you ever seen Tyler the Creator film of him on stage
Oh
like
yeah, 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 definitely.
or like Travis Scott?
Yeah.
I would compare him to them to a certain extent. Like he's not telling people to jump off roofs and crap like Travis Scott or whatever, but he is so involved with the audience. He's not there just like to put on a show. He's there to have people in the audience interact with him and him interact back, and it's just
Yeah,
he's he'll
yeah, I think I read somewhere once. It's like if you're gonna go play you don't go to play, uh, go to be part of the audience in a
mm-hmm.
sense. Like if you're playing on stage and you're not playing in a sense that would make you excited for it, then the audience isn't going to be excited for it.
Exactly. And
Yeah, it's unique.
it's it's so cool to see people that now multiple people that I've like talked to and had like conversations with and like get a their side from it with like performing and stuff because I've talked to Dwinell about it, like how he feels about it, and it's cool to hear your side of it too because I eventually at some point I want to do some sort of show. I do. And it's a little bit nerve wracking. I mean, I've done plenty of concerts with choir and whatnot, but that's a whole group. If it's
Yeah, and yeah, plus that's definitely a different vibe. Like I wasn't jumping around with the saxophone, you know.
no, no, no.
Uh, I played my sheet music, so
So, but like, yeah, exactly. It's a different vibe, and like for me, I'd be alone because I'm writing all my music, and I'd be like singing all my music on my own, and most of my music would be a backing track that I made in Fruity Loops or whatever, or that I
Hell
played.
yeah. With loops.
But it's nice to hear from multiple people about how it feels, what it's like, because I have no realm of like scope for that, like personally.
Mm.
You can't actually get a realm of scope for it unless you talk to someone who's done it, and then you don't get the full experience until you've actually done it, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's not like, I'm not gonna play it up and say like, oh yeah, it's this crazy like difficult thing, blah blah. Like you need to be a certain kind of person. Like no no no, anybody can do it for sure. Like everyone sucked ass the first time they went on stage. Don't play yourselves. But yeah, I mean, it's almost, yeah, like you said, it's kind of like, gosh, how do I want to put it? It's kind of like a learning experience. When you go
Mm-hmm.
on, you're gonna like be kind of nervous. You're not gonna be as good at playing up the crowd, but you play a few shows and you'll just kind of get into it. So, um, I have no doubt there are certain people who just never feel comfortable on stage. That's just how it is. But yeah, I mean, I think most people can get on stage and do whatever they need to. I mean, we saw plenty of solo acts, and they were just as confident and had the same sort of presence, and even more so as some full bands that we played with.
Yeah, and it's it's something that I definitely I'm not like scared to do it, but it's definitely something that, like we were talking about earlier, a little bit of a hill to get over, especially not just with like how I'm feeling about it and like actually being up there, but finding a place to do that once I get my music out.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, well, who knows, but probably not. If when I release my music, it's not like think people are gonna come banging down my door like, oh, we gotta have you play here. Like
Ooh,
most
no, no,
likely
no,
not. There
no.
there is that extremely minuscule chance that that does happen, but it's not something I'm holding out for, obviously. So I will have to get myself out there, really try to
The
find.
the easiest way, man, is honestly, well, I don't know about now, right? But
Yeah.
let's say we get back to some sort of normalcy. Uh, Man, just find bars or whatever venues that typically put on shows, and just ask them like, "Hey, I'm a solo artist or a band or whatever, and like, is there an open spot to play on this day?" Like, try to find shows that they already have booked, and just see if they have extra spot. Because most of the time, when they book a show, uh, they actually have like hours open,
Hmm.
and people will like they just kind of wait for people to hop on. So a bigger band will want to put on a show, and then like three others will just hop out of nowhere, or maybe they'll grab a smaller friend band or something. But you really just ask. I mean, it's not, you don't have to be in the in crowd or anything. I kind of I kind of hate when musicians or whoever really think that like this is some sort of exclusive club, right? Like you need to know a guy who knows a guy. No, you just ask the bartender, "Hey, when's the next show? Can I get in on that?" And he'll be like, "Go talk to the manager," and you'll probably be able to get on there or
Yeah.
on a waiting list. So, or do open mics. You can always embarrass yourself that way. But hey, we
Yeah.
did it. But
The open mic, that's a that's a completely different experience because people aren't people that is an experience where it feels like you're you really have to impress them to get the audience on your side.
um, kind of. I mean, honestly, I think most people who go to open mics don't have a standard. They're just going to see a good, like, to see a show. Like when we used to go to open mics, I mean, we would go and play and people would get into it and cheer and stuff. And we've gotten offers like, "Hey, do you want to play at this place next week or whatever?" But then like right after we're done playing, some guy would go up and read poetry while banging like a trash can lid. So yeah, I mean, and that still got people excited. So I mean, ex- all exposure is pretty good exposure when you're
Yeah.
starting out. So yeah. And open mic is actually good practice for just being on stage as well. Because like I said, like this isn't. There's no stakes, right? It's open mic. You're not this. You're not being one up by the next guy or from the previous guys. Like nobody cares, honestly.
Well,
So
we've got about a little over an hour here.
nice.
I think we're good there, but I just want to say, like, it was super awesome having you on, man. I
Yeah, for a lot of fun. I'd love to be on again if you ever.
Absolutely. I would be happy to have you on again. Hopefully, we can have my buddy Liam here for that time. And I, I, I can say it. I'll say it now, and I'll put it in at the beginning of the video or something. I have horrible communication skills sometimes, and I, for some reason in my brain, thought I told Liam, "Hey, we're gonna do a podcast on Saturday around 1 or 2 o'clock. You down?" And apparently it just slipped my mind, and I never did it. And I was like, "Oh, that's fine, man." He was like, "Oh, I'm busy at that time. I'm sorry." And it's like, he's my co-host, but it's technically my channel. But I like this to be the podcast to be kind of our thing. So definitely him not being on isn't going to be a normal thing. So next time, hopefully, you guys can talk a little bit because Liam's super musically talented as well. He's a really I I don't want to talk him up too much because I don't want him to people to be like, oh well, he doesn't know what he's talking. But it's YouTube, everyone's gonna do that anyway. But he's got an ear for music that is unique. He finds music that I never would find and that I just love every time he gives it to me. Like,
Honestly, like most of my closest friends don't play an instrument or at all. Like the only old friend that I still have in contact with is the guy who I told you played guitar. That's it. And then my bandmates. That's all the musically inclined people I know, and now you. So that's great to have more people to talk about music.
All right. Well, again, yeah. Seriously, I'd love to have you on again. And
really, just hit me up either on here or Instagram. Doesn't matter.
Sounds awesome. All right, man. Well, everyone, thank you so much for coming by. Before we completely close out, I would like to ask you: is there anything we've talked about your EP that's coming out? Is there anything you'd like to kind of plug a little bit here at the end of the podcast?
I mean, I really just have my YouTube and that EP. You can find our band like social media on YouTube if you just look up turnt_band on Facebook and on Instagram, and then Bound by Gundams on YouTube and Instagram as well. I know I'm not putting out a lot of content recently, but I do plan to get back into it. Like I said, I'm kind of a hobby hopper, but I'm not like, a year of my life is minuscule to the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
I do have videos and stuff planned. So
awesome. I'm excited to see you get back into it. I love your videos.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and